I work at a bank, and my neighbor asked me to deposit her money for her, adding 2 extra zeros. Before the Chinese New Year, my neighbor came to my door and asked me, as someone who worked at a bank, to deposit her money for her, adding 2 extra zeros. I thought she was joking. Unexpectedly, on the 7th day of the Chinese New Year, she went straight to the bank and said that the staff had embezzled her money. My colleagues called me to testify. As soon as I arrived, she pointed her finger at me and slandered me. "You little girl. The money I deposited with you. You secretly embezzled it, didn't you?" I was just about to explain, but the woman, used to farm work, was stocky and strong, and grabbed me and slapped me twice. "My money that I've saved for so long has 2 zeros missing. If you don't compensate me today, I don't think you'll be able to leave the store." She didn't know. Before I came, I had already called her son, who works in town. Right now, the whole county is cracking down on work discipline. I don't know what kind of face her son will give her. With such a mother. On the 7th day of the Chinese New Year, I was off duty and suddenly got a call from a colleague. "Jiao Shui. You need to come quickly. There's an old woman in the lobby causing a scene. She's saying something about a deposit she made with you before the New Year. But when she came to withdraw it today, she found that there were 2 missing zeros." I hadn't even got up yet. I was still half asleep when I heard this and just found it funny. How could that be? Deposits are all done by machine. Besides, 1 or 2 zeros might be wrong. How could she possibly confuse 100 with 10,000? The other person just kept urging. "Anyway, you need to come quickly. She specifically named you as the person who handled the transaction." Now the lobby is in chaos. She was shouting from one end of the hall to the other, and the security guards couldn't stop her. There are records and surveillance cameras, right? How could she just let her run wild? I hadn't finished. When my colleague hung up, there was nothing I could do. I had to get up and get dressed in a hurry. As I passed through the living room, I suddenly remembered that a few years ago, a neighbor, Auntie Li Xiaomei, had come to visit. She said congratulations on getting a stable job in my hometown as soon as I graduated, and that it would be convenient for her to take care of my grandfather. What a capable and filial person. At the time, my grandfather was at the town fair. I greeted her and exchanged a few pleasantries. She then teased me, saying, "Who says girls are no match for boys these days? Working at a bank is so prestigious. When the time comes, you'll have to give me a few extra zeros when I go to deposit money with you, Auntie." I thought she was joking, but still said seriously, "There are regulations, and we can't just do whatever we like." So when Li Xiaomei actually came to deposit money later, I even confirmed the amount of money with her several times, and she all the while beamed and said, "Oh, you little girl, I don't trust you to handle things. I know exactly how much money there is." I quickly called a colleague again. "I'll be right there. What's the name of the old woman who caused trouble?" "It's called what?" "Xiaomei came." "That's enough. I met such a strange person at the beginning of the year." I sighed in frustration. I had heard about this industry since I first started working. There's nothing you can't think of, and nothing you can't encounter. Unexpectedly, I was given a good start just after I arrived. Thinking about the glorious deeds of Li Xiaomei when she was alone with her son, I quickened my pace. At the same time, I also called her son Lu Zhenan. I thought, Li Xiaomei must not have had an easy time being a single mother, so she got used to being inconsiderate and greedy for small advantages. Her son is now working in a proper unit. She wouldn't let her own mother do whatever she wants, would she? Besides, the county is cracking down on staff conduct these days. If I were him, I would definitely keep a close eye on my own mother, so she doesn't get into trouble. The phone quickly connected. I had not yet had a chance to speak, when the other end said coldly, "What is it? If you are looking for connections, don't come to me." I paused, and unconsciously rolled my eyes, but still explained patiently, "A colleague said your mother is causing trouble at the bank. It's a special period. You see for yourself if you want to go and stop her." After hanging up the phone, I immediately ran to the bank, which was just 100 meters from my front door. Sure enough, it was a market day. The bank was surrounded by people. They were all waiting to do their banking and people who just couldn't help but watch. Excuse me, please." I squeezed through the narrow gap, and only then did I reach the number-taking counter. When I did, a shoe was kicked at my head, and my money was swallowed. "This is going to kill me." A sharp and forceful voice broke through the bank. Li Xiaomei was stopped by 2 security guards, but they couldn't stop her. The lobby manager also advised her, "Auntie, look, we have surveillance cameras here, and all procedures are recorded. We will take you to the back to check right away. There is definitely no processing error, no error. So you're saying my money has disappeared? I clearly had 2 million in my account. That was the money for my son's wife. Now there's only 20,000. What do you think I should do? I might as well die. It's your bank that's killing me." She made as if she was going to bang her head against the wall. I quickly covered my head and ran over. "Auntie Lee, I'm Zhao Shui. Let's talk about this. Take it easy. Look, it's the new year, we can discuss everything. I gasped for breath, desperate to get all the words out in one go. When she saw it was me, she let up. My colleagues and I exchanged relieved glances. But before we could react, she waved her hand and pushed the security guard aside. Then she lunged at me, slapping me hard on both sides of my face. My forehead was cut by the zipper on her leather shoes. And my head is still buzzing. Auntie Lee, you can't hit people. I blacked out. And only managed to hold on to the sofa next to me to prevent myself from falling over. But she didn't give me a chance. And ran up to me again, grabbing my hair. You little brat. I did business with you in the first place. And now my money is gone. You heartless little girl must have taken my money. No. Before I could say anything, she slammed my head into the wooden sofa. The security guard came over to catch her as soon as he saw what happened. But she pushed me in front of her and yelled at the people watching the commotion, "Come and see. The bank staff swallowed my money and the bank is still covering it up. This is the hard-earned money of the common people. They just want to drive me to my death." They took me to the back and secretly covered my mouth. My scalp was in pain from her pulling. The lobby manager heard this and stopped the security guard from approaching and tried to reason with her. "Auntie, we definitely didn't mean it. Our bank may not compare to the Big Four, but we've been here for many years. You can ask around. If anything like this has happened, don't give me that. All I know is that my money is gone, and you deliberately let people take leave. So there's no evidence against you." Oh dear. If it wasn't true, she wouldn't dare say it. Yes. There are surveillance cameras everywhere. I think it's probably true. That's not true. My uncle's youngest daughter used to work in a bank and told us about all this dirty business. If she hadn't made a fuss, she would have definitely lost her money. Do you believe it or not? The people gathered around just listened to her side of the story. I tried to control the strength with which she was pulling my hair, and shouted, "Absolutely not. We can check the surveillance footage in public." Hearing me still talking, Li Xiaomei took off her socks and shoved them in my mouth. "I told you to stop talking nonsense. I told you to lie." An indescribable smell rushed to my nose, and I burst into tears from the stench. My colleague Song Yan pushed her way through the crowd and shouted, "I've already called the police. And the surveillance footage has been retrieved. If you don't let go and continue causing trouble, it will be considered intentional assault." While Li Xiaomei was distracted, I also pulled the sock out of my mouth. Warning. I called your son before I came. If the people at his workplace find out that you're behaving so recklessly, he'll never get promoted again. Hearing about her son, Li Xiaomei froze for a moment, but still wouldn't let go of me, and pulled me towards the wall, while tearing at her hair and clothes. Ouch. I'm not going to make it. They're connected everywhere. Everyone is in on it. I'm definitely not going to get my money back. I'll take one down with me if I die. Don't be afraid. We're all witnesses. If they dare not pay us back, we'll report them. Yes, sister. We worked hard to save up our money. We can't let it be taken away like that. These little girls from the bank hang out here and they're every day after work. They must have conspired to rip us off together. Li Xiaomei was completely beside herself. I was hit so hard that my eyes were filled with stars. My whole shoulder felt like it was going to fall apart. I looked to the manager for help, but he was just hiding behind the crowd, making a phone call. Then he assured the onlookers, "I will give you an explanation. Our bank could never make such a low-level mistake. I know that it is his appraisal period, and he absolutely cannot allow anything to go wrong in the bank. If I'm not wrong, he must have just called the police to tell them that it was a misunderstanding and that everything has been resolved. There is no need to come." As expected, when I looked again, I could no longer see Song Yan's figure, and the two security guards had also disappeared. Li Xiaomei was still recklessly bumping into me, and I could see blood marks on my face from her. Just as I felt like I was going to faint, a male voice sounded like celestial music. "Mom, what are you doing?" In a daze, I looked at the person approaching, and it was Li Xiaomei's son, Lu Zhendong. Hearing his voice, Li Xiaomei's eyes twinkled, and she immediately let go of me, crying and running towards him. "My son, you've finally come. Your old mother has been bullied. The money I left at home for you to marry a wife has also been cheated. What are we going to do?" She cried and fell half on Lu Zhendong's body. At first glance, it really looked like she said. Lu Zhendong, however, glanced at the people watching the fun. He pushed her aside. "What are you messing around with? Aren't you ashamed enough?" Li Xiaomei's eyes flashed with disbelief. After a moment, she cried, "Wah wah wah," saying that her son was not filial, and did not know the suffering of a mother. TSK. I thought he was here to support his mother. I never thought I'd get into a fight with my own mother. This girl is really pitiful. Her savings had 2 zeros missing. It's one thing to be bullied by outsiders, but her own son doesn't stand up for her. Without asking any questions, he just assumed it was her mother causing trouble. What a spineless man. Hearing the provocation from the people next to me, I hurried over to explain. We checked the savings several times. And it was indeed that much. You can come and see for yourself on the surveillance footage. Lu Zhendong glared at Li Xiaomei in anger upon hearing this. But she immediately reached out her foot and tried to kick me. You're still talking nonsense. It was clearly 2 million. But now it's become 20,000. If you didn't do it, who did? Son. It was her who tricked your mother. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, I grabbed the microphone from the manager's hands and swore, I guarantee with my job, that the transaction was done correctly, and all the processes were recorded. That day, Auntie Li came with 20,000 in cash. There's a world of difference between 20,000 yuan and 2 million yuan. That's true. A difference of 100 or 2 is possible. But 20,000 yuan and 2 million yuan, there's no way you could make a mistake. I could see that this girl was unafraid even after being beaten. And her son wasn't even on her side. Could it be that she was really just stirring up trouble? I held onto the microphone tightly. Only then did the pain in my body gradually spread. I thought that after I changed the tone of my words, everything would be fine. The manager immediately ordered me to be dragged away, along with the microphone in my hand. Lu Zhendong also suddenly spoke with a cold face. No. I do remember that a few years ago, my mother deposited 2 million in the bank. Now you're saying that there's only 20,000 left. What's going on? And you, my mother, for the sake of being neighbors for so many years, said that it wasn't easy for you to just start working and you used up all your savings to help you get started. Is this how you repay my mother? I suddenly felt my eyes go dark. He doesn't want to work anymore? How dare he say such indiscriminate things? Seeing that I wanted to avoid trouble, I was about to be taken away by the manager's people. If I left, who knows if he would put the blame on me in the name of maintaining customer relations? I immediately kicked the 2 people next to me and broke out of the siege. Lu Zhendong, since you've said that, dare you say that your mother deposited the 2 million in our bank, and that it was the 2 million in my hands? Lu Zhendong hadn't spoken yet. Li Xiaomei yelled before Lu Zhendong could say anything. Of course it is. I read your grandfather after picking you up to raise you so hard, to bring all the money in the family to do business for you, and never thought you were a black-hearted wolf. I laughed loudly. Really? You don't think it was really me who handled your business, do you? To avoid suspicion, I asked my colleague Song Yan to handle the final process for you. You say I embezzled your money, but did we both embezzle your money together? A year ago, when Li Xiaomei came to deposit money, although I double-checked the deposit amount, in order to avoid suspicion and trouble, I still took a precaution and let my colleague Song Yan take over the business. She and I were both the newest colleagues who had just joined the bank. We got along quite well over meals and drinks. We often shirked responsibility for each other. We each found it difficult to deal with difficult customers. After a while, what I did that day was not that surprising. Lu Zhendong didn't know. Or if he did, he was unafraid. He stood in front of her mother with a cold face. Don't say all this nonsense. We are all hardworking farmers. I don't want to argue with you. I will only talk to your leader. He glanced at the manager tentatively. The manager also smiled broadly and invited him and Li Xiaomei to talk in the back room. I looked on coldly. These were 2 people who had reached an agreement based on their own interests. They were going to throw me aside, someone who had suffered damage to my reputation. And physical injuries? How could there be such a ridiculous thing in the world? But before I could say anything else, I was completely taken to the small room inside. Song Yan and I were forced to sit in the outer room, while Li Xiaomei and her son had a detailed discussion with the manager inside. Song Yan was so angry that she couldn't help it. She was really speechless. The manager not only didn't report this obvious frame-up to the police, but also talked to them. What's there to say? I said they should be arrested and sent to the detention center for a few days to learn their lesson. My forehead was swollen, and there were also bloodstains on my face. But I sincerely apologized to her. I've caused you trouble. I only knew that she loved to make a scene, but I didn't know she was such a heartless person. Song Yan looked at my injuries and sighed. You also took over some of my clients. Besides, we were clearly following the rules. We didn't do anything wrong. As we were talking, the door opened. Lu Zhendong and the manager came out one after the other. Li Xiaomei followed behind them sullenly. After seeing me, she gave me a fierce glare. It wasn't until Lu Zhendong took her hand that she glanced over her head. As she was about to walk out the door, Lu Zhendong said, Brother Wang, today's incident was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry. The manager gave a smile and said something polite. It's all trivial. It's good that we've talked it out. You should hurry and take your aunt home and let her rest. Don't delay you from going to work. I immediately stood up and said, No way. The manager gave me a warning look. But I wasn't intimidated. She came to the bank for no reason and hit me for 10 whole minutes. My head still hurts, and I have a bruise on my face. And Song Yan, manager, on what grounds did you ignore her wishes and lock her in there? Lu Zhendong sneered and ignored me. Li Xiaomei also whispered, silly. No wonder you want to be a bank teller. You. Song Yan stood up and pointed at her. Li Xiaomei spat. What did you say? You're no better. You wear makeup at work. You ungrateful brat. I wonder who you're flirting with. You little vixen. Song Yan was so angry that she pursed her lips and heaving her chest. I quickly comforted her country bumpkin. You're used to swearing. Don't take it to heart. Song Yan just stared at them with red eyes, dead set on the direction they left. I knew. Lu Zhendong was finished. And so was the manager. After all, Song Yan was not just a little clerk like me. I had seen her get off the vice mayor's car with my own eyes. And the president of the city's main branch. She called her sister. After Lu Zhendong and Li Xiaomei left, I confronted the manager and demanded an explanation. Manager. It was clearly her fault. And you just stood there while we were wronged and beaten? The manager snorted in derision. The matter has been resolved. It's the beginning of the year. Don't you two cause me trouble. So just let them smear us like this? Song Yan folded her arms and asked. The manager turned back and warned. What smearing? It was just a misunderstanding. No one will remember in a couple of days. If you dare to make a fuss, don't forget you're still on probation. He led the others away, leaving Song Yan and me face to face. I spoke first to test the waters. Song Yan, this has nothing to do with you. Just bear with it. She used a piece of paper to wipe the bloodstains on my face. What about you? Got beaten up for no reason? I cried on purpose. Who told me not to provoke them? I still have a grandfather to take care of. This is already the best job I can find. Song Yan hugged me to comfort me. What century is this? Still trying to cover your mouth. You think you can bully us because we're just little girls? I don't think he can cover his mouth. Song Yan took me to the manager's office and threw my work badge and uniform on the floor. Wang Dazhuang, you're our manager and leader, but you're just trying to keep the peace and let the bank's reputation be damaged. And the staff take the blame. Let me tell you. If you want to quit, you can just do it. I can't stand it for even one day. But if I leave, you won't have it easy either. Just wait for my letter of complaint. Wang Dazhuang didn't even lift his head. He stared at the documents in his hands, twirling his pen and smiling. Song Yan is from Xishan village, right? It seems that she grew up in a single-parent family. Her mother died when she was 18. As for Zhao Shui, she was a foundling raised by an old man. She also has no one to depend on. I'm kindly reminding you that the market is not doing well. And jobs are hard to find. If you're obedient, you can continue working for me. If you're not, get your things and get out. He slammed his hand down heavily, in what he thought was a show of authority. But Song Yan walked straight up to him and overturned everything on the table. You're so cheap. Your mother must have died and no one taught you anything. Is this how you use your back? Wang Dazhuang is in a good mood. The manager was intimidated by Song Yan's presence and stood up in a panic, while fiddling with his clothes to cover up his embarrassment. That's enough. I'll give you 200 yuan plus paid leave. Don't be ungrateful. 200? You're not even giving a beggar a tip. Who needs your paid vacation? I'm telling you, this isn't over. Song Yan stormed out of the office. I, on the other hand, cheerfully sat down in the manager's office. I unscrewed a bottle of water with a happy heart and drank it. Then I spit into his cup. Zhao Shui, you're crazy. He couldn't believe it. I spat again. Make sure you understand. I was stuffed with a sock. Before going to the hospital for a checkup, I rinsed my mouth. Should I spit it out or swallow it? Then why didn't you go to the bathroom? I shook my head. If I don't rinse my mouth, I'll really vomit. I can't throw up on your face. Wang Dazhuang pointed at me and couldn't speak for a long time. Finally, he stuttered, you're fired too. Get out of here. I laughed. You want me to leave just because of one sentence? I took a written test and had 3 interviews before I got this job. Do you think a manager like you really has that much authority? Or am I just a stupid fresh graduate? Before the document was issued, what should we do? I slowly left and slammed the door behind me. But as soon as I walked out the door, I was stopped in my tracks. The manager said, with this incident at the bank, everyone has to write a self-reflection. Until the storm passes, you will stay in the staff dormitory and reflect. You also have to hand in your mobile phone. Is this house arrest? I looked back, and Wang Dazhuang was squinting and smoking. Got it. I guess someone wants to give me a pillow if I want to take a nap. When I arrived at the dormitory on the 2nd floor, Song Yan was smashing things inside. When she saw me coming, she was even more indignant. Do you have a conscience? She's already hurt, and you're still treating her like this. Are you human? They whispered an explanation. Brother Wan has connections in the county. You're young and don't understand. But really, don't fight with him. He'll be transferred soon. It'll be good to have a new leader. As for Shashua's injury, we'll send medicine later. You just stay here for now. I covered my head. At that time, Li Xiaomei slammed me against the wall. I've been wanting to throw up ever since. If something happened to me at the factory, or even if I died here, Would Wang Dazhuang still want to get out of this hell? They looked at each other. After a while, they said they would go with me to the hospital for a checkup. At the hospital, the nurse said I had a mild concussion in addition to my external injuries. I held my forehead. I asked them to get my phone. I wanted to let my grandfather know I was safe first. They didn't believe me. They laughed. It's the 21st century. You can't really be willing to be someone's dog, can you? I just didn't want to go back and worry the old man. Otherwise, do you think you can really keep an eye on me just by watching me? After getting my phone, I gave Grandpa a brief description of what happened. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would find out what happened at the door. It's better if I speak first. Grandpa asked, "Are you really okay?" "Don't worry, Grandpa. It's all been recorded. No one will be wronged for no reason. It's just that we're in the eye of the storm right now. The leaders told us not to make a fuss." "Okay. Then I'll come visit you tomorrow. I'll bring you something delicious." "No need. Someone at the bank will cook for you. Just stay at home and don't worry. It's all about human relationships. Nothing will happen." Listen. I didn't say anything else. My male colleagues let go of their worries. They took me back to the dormitory. That night, Song Yan and I lay together and cursed Wang Dazhuang and Li Xiaomei. "She's sick. 2 million is a lot of money." And Wang Dazhuang, he wanted to get promoted, so he hid what happened and locked us up here. "When you went out today, didn't you have a chance to call the police?" I hesitated. In fact, I did have a chance. But secretly, I wanted Song Yan to be locked up for a few more days. And suffer a little. So that her father, the deputy mayor, and her sister, the bank manager, would take action on her behalf. What's more, Wang Dazhuang probably wouldn't dare do anything real after seeing that I was only slightly injured and allowing me to go to the hospital. So I didn't really want to escape. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Song Yan comforted me softly. "It's okay. I know you're scared too. You definitely won't dare to do anything when you're being watched. But don't worry. I definitely won't let them get away with it. I've memorized all of these people." She went on, and soon fell asleep. But I didn't fall asleep. In the middle of the night, I always felt that there was something fishy about this. I couldn't figure out how Lu Zhendong and Wang Dazhuang could have reached a consensus in such a short period of time. And become allies. They should have had different interests. One had to stick to the fact that it wasn't their mother's fault. And the other had to insist that Li Xiaomei was talking nonsense. But they had only just met. And they had already let the matter drop. How was that possible? For 2 days in a row, we were kept inside the bank, while Song Yan tried to call the police. But in the end, it was Wang Dazhuang's good friend who arrived. He said hello, and said that the employees were disobedient, and that he was just retraining them in the work of the bank. The man nodded, and told him to take it easy, and advised us to behave properly at work, and come back in a couple of days to continue the investigation. In response, Wang Dazhuang beamed with pride, and told us to behave and keep up the good work and not say anything. Song Yan was full of defiance. "Wang Dazhuang, you've messed with the wrong person." That being said, Song Yan had only just graduated. At night, we were in the attic and looked out. We were still scared. He was just waiting for us to be helpless. That's why he dared to be so reckless. Knowing that even if we disappeared for a few days no one would ask about you, at least you still have a grandfather to report your safety to. And me? If I died here, no one would ask about me even if I didn't tell them. The girl's face was still full of collagen. Her eyes in the moonlight looked like a fawn caught in the rain. My eyes flickered. "No. You will have someone to care about you. You still have friends." She rubbed my head. "Jiao Shui, you're so good. When I first arrived here, I cried every day. You took me to your house to play. You were my first friend here. I won't let anyone bully you. I lay on my side. Someone like me. I'm just used to being nice to everyone I don't know, so that I can live without any support." "Jiao Shui. What's wrong? Are you scared?" "No. It's actually me who's wrong." She suddenly covered my mouth. "Shoot. It seems someone's coming up." Outside the corridor, the voices of Wang Dazhuang and Lu Zhendong could be heard. "Zhendong, you haven't changed after all these years. Just listen to your brother. As long as you go and take care of them, your brother will believe in you. Your promotion. Your brother has people in high places. I will never let your mother influence you." "What are you talking about, Brother Wang? What era is this? How can you do such a thing?" "Really? But I'm doing fine. How can I go back to the city when you're messing things up? You're the one who wronged me first. If it weren't for your face, I can call someone at any time to invite you to the police station for tea. Do you want to try?" "Brother Wang, I didn't mean it like that. I know you've done your best. But this really... What are you afraid of? You didn't do anything like that when you were at school. I said I'd take responsibility for you, and I will. Have you never had any problems over the years? If you want to continue to work for me, you have to leave something in my hands. How can I trust you?" Song Yan poked my arm. What did they mean? I was also stunned. I didn't think they would dare to do this. I saw the voices getting louder and louder. I sat up and leaned against the window. I stuck my head out and used my eyes to measure the distance. It was about 5 or 6 meters. It should be okay. Song Yan and I quietly got up. And together we pushed the desk against the door. And quickly tied the single quilt in the bedroom. Jiao Shui, are you telling me to climb down like this? I don't want to. Song Yan was shivering by the window when the door opened. And I yelled, who's there? Then I whispered to her. There's no time. I'm sorry. Be brave. Hold on tight, you can go down. There's also a rope around my waist, I'll hold it for you. After you go down, don't call the police. Hurry up and hide. Find a chance to contact your family. I urged her. I saw the door creak open. She couldn't help but step towards the window while asking me what about me. I pushed her. Don't care so much. You run first. I was holding on to the safety rope while struggling with the desk against the outside. Lu Zhendong, are you crazy? How dare you come here? He just wants to get you killed. Someone took the blame for him. Zhendong, don't listen to her nonsense. This girl is usually an honest person. But she's actually really bitchy. If you don't fix her, I will. A stinking woman picked up by an old man. She dares not say anything. I continued loudly, if you dare to take one step inside, I will immediately call the police. If you dare to lay a hand on me, I will definitely sue you to the position where I can bring you down. You are all people with a certain social status. And don't want to cause a death, do you? If you really hurt me, I will die here and see how you will end this. The door was opened a little. A strong smell of alcohol hit my face. My mom said she wanted to set us up on a blind date at your place. Your grandfather actually refused point blank. What kind of person are you? What kind of family is yours? That old fart actually dared to reject my family. Since you don't know how to appreciate what you have, and made my mom do something like this to hurt me, then don't blame me. Lu Zhendong tightly grasped the door. So that's it. I said, why the hell is his mother acting crazy? So it was because of this that she wanted to deliberately take revenge on me? Causing a scene at the bank might not necessarily get me fired, but it would definitely embarrass me. But I didn't realize that her every move was now linked to Lu Zhendong, which forced him to continue working with Wang Dazhuang. My strength was no match for Lu Zhendong. Not to mention that Wang Dazhuang was also staggering and kicking the door. I simply gave up defending the door. I leaned towards the window and looked down. Song Yan was still in the air, holding a thermos. I held my hands in a defensive position. The dilapidated door was kicked to pieces. Wang Dazhuang and Lu Zhendong came in together. Where was that bitch Song Yan? I took advantage of them being drunk and tried to sneak out. But they stopped me with one hand. Zhendong, do you still remember when I beat you up back then? And you got your girlfriend drunk and let me join in? Today we'll let this slut enjoy it too. They held me down. Their disgusting breath was blowing in my face. And they pulled my pajama jacket off. Just when I really thought it was the end. There was a clang. Song Yan had returned. And she took the thermos that had fallen to the ground and smashed it over Wang Dazhuang's head. You bitch. You came back here yourself. Wang Dazhuang covered his head and went to grab her. But she suddenly pressed the lighter. And a glimmer of light appeared. Then there was a raging inferno. Outside the corridor she had poured alcohol. And it caught fire. I'll tell you. My father is the mayor. My sister is the head of the bank. You're finished. Wang Dazhuang and Lu Zhendong laughed heartily. She poured the rest of the alcohol at their feet. If you don't let Jiao Shui go, we'll all die together. The fire started at the head of the bed. They seemed to have sobered up and cursed. How dare you set fire to the house, I won't let you get away with it. Song Yan took the opportunity to pull me up. And said, run. She poured the last of the alcohol on the door to block the way. And dragged me downstairs like crazy. But just as we reached the door, we ran into Wang Dazhuang's friend, who said he was there to investigate the situation. Song Yan and I backed up step by step. But Lu Zhendong and Wang Dazhuang followed us. Song Yan shouted, I'm the mayor's biological daughter. If anything happens to me, none of you will get away with it. Is your own life more important than others? You choose. Wang Dazhuang's friend hesitated slightly. Song Yan immediately pulled me around the side. Are you stupid? Fooled by a little girl. I know exactly what they are. Where's the mayor's father? Hurry and get the person back, teach them a lesson. A stick came down. Song Yan blocked me. Tears sprayed directly. Damn, that hurts. Run, run. She continued to urge. I picked her up and slipped away. But the people behind continued to chase. I hid in the corner. I didn't know where else to run. But then a car came along. And its headlights lit up the whole street. So that we were clearly visible. Wang Dazhuang yelled, there they are. I looked at Song Yan, who was crying so hard she could hardly see. I asked her if she could run on her own. I'll slow them down. She carefully supported herself on my back. She looked at Wang Dazhuang, who was so close, and smiled strangely. Sister. Her loud yell made Lu Zhendong and Wang Dazhuang laugh out loud. She's crazy, right? But she didn't care. and cried, "Sister, they hit me and tried to humiliate me. It hurts, sister. What are you all staring at? Take her back and let her scream here," Wang Dazhuang urged. As people got closer and closer, the headlights went out. The car door opened. A woman in her 30s appeared, her hair tied back, wearing a coat. "What? It's the 21st century and people still rob women at night?" Her voice was neither fast nor slow, but it sounded cold in the silent night. Her high heels made a clinking sound on the asphalt. She walked step by step to Song Yan and me. Song Yan sobbed in a small voice. "Sister, it really wasn't my fault." The woman stroked her messy, even burnt hair, and turned to look at the crowd. "Wang Dazhuang, right? How dare a manager of a business hall do such a thing? In the night." Wang Dazhuang scoffs, "Who are you? I advise you to mind your own business." The woman suppresses her anger. "You just need to know that your career is over." Haha, Wang Dazhuang laughs. "You think just anyone can fool me? If you dare to protect them, you won't be able to leave either." Song Yan says nervously, "Sister, they're really hateful. Didn't anyone else come with you?" The woman looks at her watch. "Don't be afraid. Dad will be here soon." Wang Dazhuang makes a sound of disgust. "Dad, Song Yan. You're addicted to conspiring and acting, aren't you? Someone who's about to die in their family should find a man to help them, not a woman. You. Don't talk nonsense. I have a sister and a father. I'm only here because I'm angry. You should be glad that you didn't really succeed. Otherwise, you'll never get out for the rest of your life." Wang Dazhuang turned a deaf ear. Lu Zhendong also snorted. "Zhao Shui, if I were you, I would persuade her. You know yourself that this is a special period. We can't let you go out and say whatever you like. Otherwise, we can't be a civilized town. And no one can live in peace." "Zhao Shui." An old voice rang out. I looked back. And it was my grandfather. I ran towards the light like him. "Grandpa, what are you doing out so late?" "Zhao Shui, are you okay?" He pulled me up and down, looking at me, almost in tears. I'm fine, Grandpa." I said something confused, and then realized that Grandpa was actually wearing a military uniform. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Grandpa let go of my hand and walked forward step by step, looking at Lu Zhendong. "And Li Xiaomei," he said to me, "Xia Xue is going to marry you." I never believed it, until she said that you and Xia Xue's leader were classmates. Then I thought about coming out to take a look. After all, I know exactly what kind of person you are. I never thought that you little rascal really wanted to harm my Xia Xue. If you dare bully her, you can step over my old body. I'm an old man with nothing but a lifetime of merit. If you dare, come on. Grandpa, I couldn't believe it when I saw his clothes and medals. All these years, Grandpa never said he was a soldier. He always raised me by planting land, doing odd jobs, and picking up trash with his own hands. Grandpa sighed and took my hand, saying that he had wronged me. It was because he was useless that I was bullied like this. Without Grandpa, you did nothing wrong. A few more lights came on, and people got out of 7 or 8 cars. The leader wore rimless glasses and walked over to Song Yan and slapped her. "What are you causing trouble for again? You haven't answered your messages for a few days, so your sister and I had to come over." Song Yan's eyes reddened as she hid behind the woman. You know how to hide. The man's hair was already turning white. He was so angry that he wanted to chase after her and hit her. The woman stood in front of Song Yan. "Dad, my sister really got bullied." The raised arm stopped in midair, and all around was only Song Yan's soft sobbing. The man then took the time to look at everyone. His worldly eyes swept everything with a fierce gaze. Lu Zhendong was the first to react. "Deputy Mayor?" Wang Dazhuang also wiped the sweat from his forehead. Was what Song Yan said true? The rest of the people's electric batons fell to the ground. The man turned around and suddenly burst into rage. "Investigate. Investigate thoroughly." Grandpa and I followed Song Yan to the county reception center. They were very welcoming to Grandpa. A special department came to interview him. Grandpa told them everything about his war experience and his movements after the war. They were absolutely certain that Grandpa was the war hero who had been recorded but had disappeared without a trace. When asked why he had hidden his experience, Grandpa said that there was no glory in being a hero. He just wanted to be an ordinary person in peacetime, living a good life with his own hands, and not causing trouble for the motherland. If it weren't for my granddaughter, I would have taken these things to my grave. A cadre took his hand and comforted him. "Don't worry, old man. We're already investigating this thoroughly. We won't allow this kind of atmosphere to spread." Song Yan, while on the verge of being beaten, complained and cried profusely, begging her father and sister to give an ordinary person justice. "Even if I'm not related to you, Zhao Shui and I shouldn't be treated like this, shouldn't we?" Wang Dazhuang's people in the county also came to plead for him, that if the matter escalated, it would not be good for the entire city, and that it would be better to pass the test of being a civilized city first. Grandpa sat upright, and the superficial glory could not withstand the slightest storm. The deputy mayor also said under pressure, modern civilization is not achieved by silencing the people. We are still far from true civilization. Otherwise, why would such an appalling thing happen in a civilized town? Why did the two girls have nowhere to turn to for help after being locked up for a few days? If she weren't my daughter, and the other girl didn't have a grandfather who fought in the Korean War, what would have happened to them that night? Even if we don't get this place, I'm going to do my best to put these evil forces in their place. To set an example, Lu Zhendong, Wang Daji, and everyone else involved that day were all suspended and expelled before being investigated. In addition to what they did to Song Yan and me, everything that they had covered up in previous years came to the surface. The girl who had been hurt by Lu Zhendong and was now a mother also bravely came forward. Back then, I had nowhere to turn. Now I hope the law can give me an answer. There were also many more people who had been bullied by them together when they were students who also bravely spoke out. They were used as negative role models for the citywide review. Song Yan's father even took the lead in reflecting on himself. And the deeds of her grandfather were reported by the media wave after wave. The town specially established his cultural hall and carved his deeds from that year. A month later, Song Yan and I continued to go to work at the bank. I apologized to her again. In fact, I knew your identity a long time ago. She was shocked. What? You're actually that smart? I hung my head. I'm apologizing to you. She waved her hand. Forget it. After my parents divorced, they took me back to my hometown. I grew up like this. If you let me go to your house for a few more meals, I'll forgive you. I pursed my lips, and tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. After work, I immediately dragged her home. On the way back, we met Li Xiaomei, with her hair loose and acting crazy. Where's my son? Where did you take my son? My son works at the unit. The people with connections lined up from the house to the street. Did you two foxes seduce my son away? Song Yan and I hid aside. Before long, some people in white coats came and took her to the psychiatric hospital. I remember that Wang Daji promised Lu Zhendong that the bank incident would not affect him. His words were that he would just give his mother a mental illness certificate. Unexpectedly, it has now come true. After arriving home, Song Yan and I greeted Grandpa together. Grandpa, we're back from work and grocery shopping. Grandpa cheerfully nodded his head and took out the pastries he bought at the market earlier, saying that they could fill our empty stomachs. Grandpa is so nice. As I ate the pastries, Song Yan also imitated me. Grandpa, you're so nice.